Hello and welcome guys to another video. It has been a while and today we have rounds 1 and 2 of the Road to the Sim Racing Expo Championship. So this is single make series, fixed setup, so very close racing. It's a low power car, the BMW M2 CS, and it's 25 drivers from Pro Class, 25 from AM Class. So Pro Class is if you have more than 5,000 I rating, and AM Class is if you have less than 5,000 I rating. So we were in AM Class, we qualified P10 in the world, so we were within the top 25. So now going into the first round, I completely messed up my push lap in quali because I locked up going into the first corner. With it being such a short circuit, there was very, very little time separating the entire grid basically. So we started P33. So let's get into the first race.
Right, here we go. Round the final call we go. We're waiting for those lights to indeed disappear once they've gone red. We're going to have a great time. 45 cars around the sprint variant of Navarra. It is now all up to our leader. It is Jean-B who will take us away. The red lights have appeared. Oh my gosh. Oh god, it's 87 wide. This is the quickest car park you'll ever likely to see as we run down towards Tunnel One.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
So looking back at the start, so unfortunately the stewards did not agree with my send. But let's have a look and see exactly what happened. So here we get the green light call and I get a fantastic start. And because it's a rolling start, a lot of the leaders didn't get as good a start as some of us at the back of the field because we were accelerating to catch up to the leaders after that tight last corner. So we had a bit more speed. So I get a really good launch and I go to the right here. And as you can see, very quickly we're going to end up 5 wide. So this is me here and I've got this space on the right to overtake this car in front. So I go to the right, and as you see at this point there are quite a few cars all side by side because we've got these cars in front of us that didn't get a very good start, and then we've got the faster cars behind getting a good start, and it's basically just becoming like a car park. So coming into here, this is where I make this decision. Now this car has a lot of space on the left, and from my cockpit I make a split-second decision to use this pit lane exit to get on the right side of this BMW. Now, in hindsight, with a day and a half to think about this move, this was not the best decision, but with the 0.2 of a second that I decided, here I'm thinking, okay, I stay on the right, and then we get to here, the BMW moves, and I think, okay, I'm going to go onto this and try and stay on the right. Unfortunately, he sees that, and me being me, instead of backing out, I stay committed to this outside, which, like I say, in hindsight, was not the best decision. But going into this, I am now 4 wheels on the grass. But as you see, this driver could be anywhere on the left. So he's not done anything wrong by blocking me, but at the same time, when he sees me on the grass, he still decides not to let me rejoin the track. So I then basically force my way onto the track. But as you can see from my steering wheel, when I press the brake pedal, unfortunately I have left 2 of my wheels on the grass. So as soon as I press the brake pedal, the car pulls to the left and I counter steer to the right, which clips this black car and spins him out. And that resulted in a 10-second time penalty for myself because I went 4 wheels off the track, which is, like I say, fair enough. Looking in hindsight, it was too aggressive to go for that move. When I had a 0.2 seconds to make the decision, I thought, I'm going to go to the right. He's got space on the left to move over. Didn't work out, so we move on to the rest of the race. So now, after that chaotic lap one, not much else happened for us up until lap 3. So we were just trying to stay out of trouble. And now coming into one of probably the most crash-prone corners, we have a collision up in front. So we pick up one free position on the right there, and then coming into the final corner, we have a pro in front of us, so we don't gain any points for passing this car. So I just take it nice and easy into the final corner, and now I try and stick with the cars in front. As you see, we've got a big train up in front of us, so now we're just going to try and stick with that train and see what we can do. Now on to lap 5, and again we have another crash going into this right-hander. We gain one free position, and we don't really lose much time from avoiding the crash. And now the cars in front are all bunched up. We have another car with damage, so that's another free position. And we see a bumper flying across the track. So now we are up a few more positions overall. And right in the pack, and the front of this pack was fighting for P3, if I remember correctly. So now my focus is, we've made up a bunch of positions. I know I'm going to get a penalty for the first corner incident. So now what I'm wanting to do is stick with this train and make sure I'm in the top 20, because the top 20 are reversed for race 2. So if you finish P20 in race 1, you start P1 in race 2. So it's the top 20 overall are reversed. So going on to lap 6 now, we are P13 overall after starting P33. So we're up 20 positions overall. So now I'm not trying to take any risks. I'm just wanting to stay with this pack. And again, there is another crash. That was a pro driver, so didn't give us any positions in class, any more points, but it did give us another position overall, so up to P12. So now on lap 9, we have an AM driver in front of us. And now I'm trying to look to see if we can make up another position in class in this first race. So coming into this right-hander, it's very easy to trigger the ABS. So you see the driver in front, goes for the outside, touches the grass, brakes too late. We're able to hold it on the inside and pick up a nice free position. So now we are up to P11 overall and P5 in class. So now on lap 18, I have another AM driver behind me. I go to the inside, I see he's also going to the inside, so I go back to the racing line. He outbrakes himself into the tight right-hander, crashes with the pro driver, I slam on the brakes to avoid, and then he slows down to give the position back and flashes lights to apologise. So we hold on to that P5 in class. So in the end, we finish P11 overall, P5 in class in the first race. So now into race 2, and we are starting P10 for the second race. We get a really good start. The driver in front blocks us, so we move back into the middle. Unfortunately, now we are on the outside, and we are 3 wide going into the first corner. Trying to hold it round the outside if we can. We're able to hold on to it and avoid all the crashes into the first corner. Slotting in behind the car in front, which is exactly what we wanted to do, and try and just avoid any of the crashes into the first corner. 2 drivers in front of us fight a bit. I go for the inside and sort of fake the driver in front, who then outbrakes himself into the right-hander. We then end up 3 wide on the exit, and I've got an AM driver on my outside, so I have to back out. Going into the last corner, I just want to survive this first lap. I've got a driver on my outside, so I defend, hold the inside, and get a good run out the final corner. Now the issue is that we now have all the pro drivers who finished at the front of race 1. They're now trying to get through the field. And then we have the slower drivers in front of us that we're then trying to overtake. So it causes a few incidents, to say the least. So now I just let the 2 pro drivers pass me, coming out of the final corner. And now I have another AM driver behind. I brake in the middle, and I see that he's still going to send it down the inside. So I back out so that I don't risk getting turned around. And then just try and slot in behind this AM driver. But then at the same time, I have another AM driver send it up the inside. So this was a big issue for us in race 2, is that we would let one driver past, and then like this, I just look to my inside and I see that driver diving down from the inside. And then going into the last corner, you see myself here. I then look in my mirror and I see another driver sending it up the inside. So I go to the outside. He manages to make it stick, but then that left the door open for another AM driver. So I've lost positions overall in track and also in class just from trying to avoiding getting taken out myself on this first 2 laps. So I've dropped from P10 overall to P19 overall. Now on lap 12, going into the right-hander, again, a lot of crashes here. Driver in front spins out one of the AM drivers and collects 2 other overall cars. So that gives us a few overall positions and also a couple positions in class. And now we have an AM driver on the right, a pro driver on the left, and I have a pro driver on my left going into the last corner. So I had to do a little bit of defense there to not compromise my exit too much. And the issue with this race was trying to manage the pros and the AMs, because you wanted to let the pros through and not defend from the pros, because you don't gain any points for finishing ahead of a pro. You only get points for position in class. But when you let the pros through, usually an AM driver would try and follow at the same time, or you would just lose a lot of time to the next AM drivers up in front. So here, I let a pro driver through, but as you see, I've then lost out a bit to the AM driver in front of these 2. So it was all about trying to manage, and then we see this AM driver just send it up the inside of me. I'm able to get the cutback, but then that pro that I just let through is now behind me again. So see, it was just trying to manage the traffic of defending from the pros, but at the same time letting the AMs through. The pro sends it up the inside. Another pro tries to follow him through. So now I try and just follow these 2 drivers in front of me. But on my right, you will see that I have this AM driver on my right. So I've got to take the outside line for the first 2 corners, which is not the optimal line. So I'm trying to see if I can go for a cutback coming into turn 3 here. He brakes in the middle, so I know that I can't go for the inside. And then we get these 2 pros in front of us fighting. But as you see, this AM that I was just a few car lengths behind a lap or 2 ago, I've now dropped a few seconds to him because I tried to let a few pros go through. And then we've ended up in this battle with 2 pros fighting and then me and this other AM fighting. So I've actually ended up in a worse spot. So now coming into the right-hander, I hold the inside in behind the other AM driver, and I have an AM driver on my outside. So going into this right-hander, I get a really good run, but as you see, I'm just not fully ahead to be able to shut the door. He's still on my left now. So going into the final corner, he puts me over to the right. I try and brake in the middle of the track to just maximize my exit. I get a good run, a little bit of a door bang, but we leave him space. And now it's a drag race down into the first couple corners. We have the inside line, and we have a driver behind us. I think he was in the pro class, giving us a bit of a bump draft. So now into the triple right-hander. I'm going to try and hold the inside, but as you see, he just gets enough overlap on that straight to cut us off. And now I have the AM driver diving down my inside. Sorry, the pro driver diving down my inside. So I slot in behind him. And now we've got the AM driver in the blue and black on our inside. So we're going to try and stick it around the outside of this fast left-hander. And we just get enough overlap to close the door on the entry. Coming into this fast right-hander now, I hold the inside to make sure he can't get down the inside into this right-hander. Holding the inside, and now we have 2 AM drivers right behind us. The blue, the black, and the white car gets a little bit of a slide. So we're able to hold on. They are now battling a bit. So going into the last corner, I'm able to take the normal racing line and hold on to the position. So now I can let them fight and focus on myself. So now coming into this right-hander with 2 laps to go, I have this driver on my outside. I hold the inside, try and focus on getting a good exit. He holds his brakes very well and is able to make it stick on the outside. I now have the inside for the last corner, so I'm going to try and push him over to the left as much as possible and just maximize my exit out the final corner. As you see, he gets a nice little cutback there on me. I move over to the right to defend on the straight, but he's got such a good exit out of the last corner that I cannot move over to the right without putting him onto the grass. So I then move back over to the racing line to try and set up a cutback coming into the first 3 corners. As you see, he holds it on the right, goes out a little bit wide. I have a nosy for the inside, scare him a little bit, which gives us a good run coming into this fast left-hander. So now this is the final lap, and I'm trying to maximize my straight line speed to try and look for a move into this right-hander. This is now my last overtaking opportunity. I have a nosy to the right. I'm a little bit too far behind to make it stick. He does go wide, but unfortunately I don't get a good enough exit to be anywhere near close enough to make a send into the last corner. So I take the standard racing line and slot in behind. So a really nice second race. So looking at the results for that one, we finished P20 overall, which was P8 in class. Apart from the crash in race 1, we honestly had a lot of clean racing. We didn't really get in much other incidents. Race 2, I would say, was very difficult for just the traffic management of trying to let pros through who were quicker than us, but then having AMs who we were faster than, trying to follow them through, and us basically just getting swamped at some points. Like you saw in the first 3 laps, we dropped 9 positions overall, just trying to avoid crashes and things like that. But a good start to the championship, so now we look to round 3 and 4. So it's 2 rounds every race week. So there is 3 race weeks. So there's one at the end of this month. Then there is one in September. And each of those have 2 races. Full points for both of the races. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this already in the video or not, but we're only told to track 24 hours before the race start, which makes it a bit more interesting because we have less time to prepare. This track was the track that was used for Time Attack, so a lot of people were already very familiar, well, pretty much all of us were already familiar with this track and this variation of the track, but obviously for the next rounds it's going to be completely different, so that will be very exciting. So if you guys want to see the official streams, I will post them on my Instagram or Discord, and I will also be posting some highlights reels as well at the end of the races, just like we did today. So if you guys like this style of video, unfortunately with my broadband just now, I just cannot risk streaming in esports events because of the risk of getting disconnected from the server. But if you guys like this style of video where we basically look at a race review and look at some of the official stream and see from my perspective how the race went. If this is something you guys enjoy, let me know in the comments down below, and if there's any changes you guys want, so I can do them for the next rounds. But as always guys, thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoyed, and see you again next time.